Hello, welcome back to the Level 1 show, and we're doing government and social stories. Today's September 6th. It is the official start of meteorological fall.
I'm back.
And Ryan's gone. Everyone in this office is slowly falling apart, so...
I had a piece of toast after midnight. I had to go to the hospital.
I had to go to the hospital, yeah. Ryan's fine. He's seeing a doctor later this week, but...
It's fine. Maybe. Probably.
Probably
but
fine.
you know what's not fine? Oh, this is not even... Is this even the first story? Yeah, this is
It's the first story.
It's definitely not fine.
U.S. Oh, I can't read it because I'm blind. U.S. asked British spy agency to stop Guardian publishing Snowden revelations.
So...
You guys may have heard of Snowden.
Yeah, I mean, this was during, like, the revelation. It was broken by The Guardian, not a U.S. newspaper, because nobody in the U.S. wanted to carry this story, apparently.
For some strange reason.
And the relationship here was buddy enough. Like, this is really disturbing when you dig into this. It's like, oh well, we knew that it might harm the relationship with the NSA, but asking a newspaper not to run this story is a step too far. That's a quote from the guy. It's like,
yeah.
Maybe doing it in the first place is a step too far. Did you ever think about that?
There was a quote from someone in the story where they're like, we don't really care about the public relations of the NSA, so that's why we published it. But it was weird that they even asked.
It was weird that they even asked. But that tells you a lot about the relationship between these organizations and what other shenanigans has been going on behind the scenes that they did say, well, okay, we could see not publishing this. There's some rot inside the Tree of Liberty or something. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
We can declare war on corruption. Meanwhile, Japan's going to declare war on
floppy disks. Japan declares war on floppy disks for government use.
So there's some procedures in Japan. Apparently, you have to submit your request on a floppy disk.
What year is it? I don't think I've handled a floppy disk in at least 15 years.
Yeah, there are about 1,900 government procedures that requires the business community to use disks, floppy disks, CD, MD, to submit applications in other forms. So this is basically just saying, we should probably just allow all this online.
Or just have some way of, just handling it.
Okay.
That's not a floppy disk.
Sounds good. Ars Technica has this.
To save lives, issue connected vehicle technology waiver, NTSB tells FCC.
The FCC left 30 megahertz of bandwidth for connected vehicle to whatever applications. We talked about this not last week, but the week before.
Week before, I think.
And they've been sitting on this spectrum for like 20 years. Part of this screeching is to just try to hang on to the spectrum so they could eventually use it for something. And part of it may actually light a fire under their butt to finally do something with it.
And before it's just advertising.
Yeah,
car-to-car
it's
always just advertising.
Car-to-car analytics. So there's a couple of rules, I guess, that automakers are saying, well, it would be nice if we could, blah, blah, blah. So maybe they would be able to do this. But really, I think this was just a bit of a hurrah in the automakers not wanting to give up that spectrum because maybe they could monetize it some other way later. But vehicle-to-vehicle safety, they've already had the spectrum for years. They just didn't do anything with it.
Isn't it like 20 years or something? It's a long time they've had it and not done anything with it.
Yeah. So we'll see approximately 1 million vehicle-to-whatever cars in Europe by 2024 to 2025, or 10 million by around 2024 to 2025. So I don't know. I like there's one of these vehicle-to-vehicle standards was a not super modified version of what light aircraft use, and that seemed like a reasonable implementation as well for vehicle-to-vehicle communications. You know what other data might be shared by vehicle-to-vehicle communications?
This one's pretty terrible. A huge Chinese database of faces and vehicle license plates has spilled online. This almost could have been in the security section, but I guess it is technically. It's the Chinese government. It's the surveillance state.
Yeah, so it's like, what could possibly go wrong if we maintain 800 million records representing one of the biggest known data security lapses of the year by scale? 800 million.
It is technically, I guess, a subcontractor of the Chinese government, but I mean, it was made because of Chinese surveillance, so.
I mean, good Lord, just why? And now imagine all the vehicle-to-vehicle data and... it's like, I saw this vehicle here, and it can be corroborated by other vehicles.
Well, yeah, because it was for workplaces, it was for, parking garages, literally anything that you interacted with. Yeah. So you're probably in it if you're a Chinese citizen.
Even if you do your due diligence and, you're driving a 1976
Yeah.
Ford Escape. It's just, it doesn't
A land
matter.
yacht. It doesn't matter.
It's like, oh, the emissions people made me put this box on my engine. And it's like, oh, that's for your vehicle-to-vehicle communications. Switching gears a little bit.
The U.S. may soon learn what a kid-friendly internet looks like. So I want to get your take on this. I read this article and I was like, why don't we just have these kind of privacy protections for everybody? Like that was my takeaway, but
I don't understand why we wouldn't just, if we're going to do this, just create a separate internet that
for
is
children.
that's for kids, that's on the internet, but you go there and it's like, in order to participate in this, your stuff has to be reviewed. That seems like
kind of what they kind of say that they're like, we don't want kids to have all their data sold online, which seems like it's fair enough to me. But and like they want to make it so if you're on a website and you're under 18, it automatically doesn't sell your data. Like you don't have to go into an option and checkbox a bunch of stuff saying don't sell my data, don't blah blah blah.
we already have that for kids under 13. But the other thing about this is that they want, children might reasonably use, quote unquote, this service.
Yeah, but that's not defined, so that's kind of hazy. I'm like, couldn't we just make it so every user experience makes it so it automatically protects your privacy?
Yeah, it's like some of the bill's critics argue that the ADCA scope is over-inclusive. Opponents include a video game trade ban, the Entertainment Software Association, and TechNet, a group whose members include Google, Meta, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, it's overreaching. Well, it's going to make them liable. So, I mean, the cynical thing is to say, well, of course, Google and other companies don't want this because it's going to make them liable because blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that if you want to protect your children online, you have to monitor what they're doing online, full stop.
Right.
Do you let your children play after midnight in a dark alley in a really crowded inner city neighborhood? No. Why would you, oh, they should be able to play down by the hypodermic needle factory. Why isn't that safe?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I've got some news for you.
Yeah, I don't know. On one hand, I was like, not selling kids' data seems like a good idea, but considering they didn't actually define how they were going to determine literally anything, it seems like maybe just...
This would create a bigger mess than just doing it right to begin with.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fun stuff. Engagement challenge is like, is there a better alternative than just here's a whitelist and it'll do its thing? There's a gaming coalition. It's like Tanky Gaming, something like that. Very whitelisted organization, and they've done like their approach is sort of the correct approach. It's like we as an organization are willing to be responsible for this. Yes, that's how you do it. Seems reasonable.
The only thing that I took from this that I thought was a good idea was that companies can no longer just like hide all their privacy settings behind 20 things. It's all just enabled by default. We should all have that. That should not just be for children.
Yeah.
That's something that they can absolutely implement. And it seems like that would be a clear-cut piece of legislation, but no.
We should have that in a way that's not as ham-fisted as that.
Yeah. It shouldn't just be for kids, and it shouldn't have all this other crap in it.
Speaking of ham-fisted,
the Fed gives a timeline for FedNow, its payments platform.
So if you owe the Fed money, okay. It's like FedNow is a platform that the Fed will provide to banks to build on top of and create payment features in existing or new products. Products enabled by FedNow will have nearly instant settlement around the clock. Ever needed a cashier's check after all the bank branches had closed? FedNow could be an answer for that kind of situation. So this is going to bring things into the 20th century, basically. Oh, wait, aren't we in the 21st century?
When does the 22nd start?
Not soon enough.
Yeah, well, who knows what fresh hells will be in the 22nd, so...
Oh, I imagine Ryan was getting a good kick out of this article.
Yeah, there were two or three articles like this in this section. California asks residents not to charge electric vehicles days after announcing gas car ban.
So California doesn't want you to be able to buy an internal combustion engine in the not too distant future. And then a few days after they announced that, it's like, they plan to ban the sale of gas-powered cars by 2035. Okay, but also don't charge your electric. If you're an early adopter, you're too early. Our electrical grid's not there yet.
Yeah, well, if you don't know, California's under a massive heat wave right now, and it's putting some strain on their grid, to put it lightly. So they ask people, hey, when you get home from work, that's peak hours because everyone's getting home from work. Please don't charge your electric car during that time.
Also, don't control your thermostat. Oh, foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah, that was a dark story.
This is a business story in government because it's caused by government. But yeah, it's really interesting. Reuters.
New U.S. curbs on sales of Nvidia AI chips to China spark sell-off.
Not just Nvidia, also AMD. But Nvidia's latest products for the H100 and the V100 AI, that sort of thing, the U.S. has stepped in and said, don't sell those to China, which has created a really interesting situation because some of the components for those are imported from China. And so Nvidia basically had to immediately turn around and say, look, we have some intellectual property that's being produced in China, and we're sourcing some design components and some other stuff from China. This is going to make things really awkward, because the expectation here is that we'll be able to sell our products
in China.
And it seems like the answer is going to be no.
Is the U.S., I think, just trying to angle so that way they move production here instead of in China?
I mean, some of the components of this, certainly, sure. It also seems like that it's not an outright ban. Some of this stuff will still be allowed. It's just that you have to get approval first. It's like, okay, this organization can buy it. This organization can buy it. The article talks about how in Hong Kong, there's a subsidiary, an NVIDIA subsidiary in Hong Kong. They're going to be allowed to fill orders through, some of the orders through March 2023 and some of the orders through September 2023. So this is not a very super sudden thing. But I'm sure that, if you're NVIDIA, it's really annoying. And the stock market has certainly reacted.
Yeah.
And this also goes for AMD, and some of AMD's high-end products are also on that list. So, maybe not a good time to be opening up an AI research center in China. Speaking of which,
Toyota triples planned investment to $3.8 billion in U.S. battery plant.
Well, I mean, people in California aren't going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine.
Yeah, this is kind of where the industry's going, it looks like, so it's not too surprising.
We need batteries, so maybe we might finally see some improvements in battery technology.
Remember there for a while, it was like for a year solid. Every other week we'd have new battery breakthrough, and then it wasn't like not really a thing.
You can take some maple syrup and some clabbered milk, mix it together, and then you have the ultimate storage device. Or you could run your whole home off of a gallon of clabbered milk. And
I don't think that's true.
We never heard from those guys again. What's going on? Yeah, it's.
But maybe this time we'll be right.
Speaking of guys we never heard from again.
Germany orders September 1st shutdown of digital ad displays to save gas and save power because they're also struggling with power.
Yeah, the natural gas going into the electrical plants. Germany's doing pretty well in the reserves. They've got 80% of their reserves in already, and it's September, and but that doesn't mean that they're not going without. It's like, hey, let's plan a little bit here.
They're worried for winter. Yeah.
Not just digital signs either. It's also government buildings and some other power-saving measures. So this is probably a good thing. I think
this
people
is
would rather
a net
have,
positive.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather have heat or outdoor signage?
Well, do you remember when there was the big snowstorm in Texas in 2021, and people were furious online because downtown, like all of it was lit up with all the ads and like the sparkling lights. People were like, we can't heat our homes, but all of downtown's still lit up. So Germany's probably looked at that and was like, ooh, let's get ahead of that now.
All of downtown is still operational, and they're paying $1,000 per kilowatt hour to keep that sign on. This is kind of a dupe, kind of a follow-up from a couple of weeks ago.
FTC sues massive data broker for selling location info on abortion clinics.
And my take on this is much like your take on the other one. Is like, maybe we could just not have data brokers.
Yeah. Like maybe we just stop doing that. Maybe we just stop selling data.
The FTC is like, well, here's the line. Don't cross this line. And that line is really far away from where I would put that line.
Yeah. Why don't we just not keep stuff like that?
Oh, no.
Unless it's like relevant if you're like a doctor.
I accidentally closed the tab. No.
Oh. Reload? No. Reopen should be.
Where's my reopen?
Oh, there's not one.
Uh-oh. How did I mess that up? Reopen,
Whoops.
Close tab. Oh, well.
It's gone forever.
Anyway.
FBI says it routinely notifies social media companies of potential threats following Zuckerberg and Rogan podcast.
So I guess the news story here is that Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, and they had really practiced his, human algorithms.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. Ryan said he was going to, but I mean, he's out today, so I didn't hear anything else about it other than like, yeah, he's a robot and not a particularly interesting guest.
What did you think about it? I think one of the things, if I remember correctly, one of the things that he said was, whenever I get up every morning, being the CEO of Meta is just, I get out of bed and it's immediately I'm punched in the stomach.
Oh yeah, he said whenever he like opens his notifications, which I was like, well, that's just part of living in the 21st century, dude. Like, you get up, you look at your phone, and you see your emails, and then you see the horrible world headlines, and then you go, oh. Instead of looking out your window and looking at all the beautiful sunshine and birds.
I'm imagining the meme where it's the principal Skinners at from The Simpsons. And it's like, no, it's the children who are wrong. At some point in a billionaire's life, they've got to experience that where it's like, maybe I should be a little more introspective and think about what I'm doing. And it's like, no, I'm a billionaire. Obviously, it's the rest of the world that's wrong. Like,
Or I would think, I feel like I'm the kind of person where I would reach a certain level of success, like what Zuckerberg has reached, and I would be like, no, that's good. Like, I'm just going to live, I'm just going to coast and do whatever I want now.
I'm going to go to the villa. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can afford. It's like, there's a luminary that I really like and I'm interested in. I can just afford to have them come out to the house for a week or two.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's really intent on making the metaverse a thing.
This is also in the story, and it was misrepresented a little bit, but
yeah, Taiwan shoots down unidentified drone over island near China.
now they were able. There were
This was a Taiwanese island.
Yeah, there were like
Claimed
three
by
of these, and so is this escalating tensions between China and Taiwan? Some people were saying it was a civilian drone. Other people were saying it was a modified civilian drone. It's really hard to know what exactly is going on here, other than there's a lot of tension between this island, which belongs to Taiwan, and China mainland.
China. Yeah, China. I think it's like 2 miles from China. This little island.
So it's kind of like, what's going on?
The Chinese officials said that they think it was just a civilian and they don't know anything about it. But I mean, they're not going to say, no, that was our spy drone. So I mean.
There's a Chinese TikToker that's trying to get some really amazing drone aerial footage, and they're accidentally going to spark a war.
Yeah, well, it's they said that they shot several flares at it first, just to like give it a warning, like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, and it didn't react, and then they shot it down. So.
Speaking of things that are somewhere they're not supposed to be.
Iran approves cryptocurrency regulations, raising fears of skirting sanctions.
So if Iran approves cryptocurrency, then people elsewhere in the world could send them things of value, and Iran has a lot of sanctions from a lot of countries.
I mean, that's not surprising, right?
So, business as usual then.
Yeah, that's okay.
I suppose.
Oh, did you skip to the end?
No? Did I? No.
Oh, okay. No, sorry, I misread that.
Next story. This is just this is the
It's
same
kind of a
story.
repeat, yeah.
California ass resident, yeah.
Because of the intense heat wave. I think when I looked at the weather report for that area, I think it was like 107 in a few places, which seems like that's very high for California.
Yeah. Now, domestically, we've got the CHIPS Act and all the stuff that's coming with that. And there's some news out of Taiwan about that as well.
Taiwan president says she looks forward to producing democracy chips with the U.S. That's like kind of has the same vibe as freedom fries.
Yeah.
When we renamed French fries.
Yeah, and being the president of Taiwan, they probably, she's probably got her stuff together. She probably understands what's going on. You got to, at some point, it's like, oh, they're meeting with who in the U.S. government? Oh, I'm so embarrassed because they should be meeting with the best of the best and not.
Is there a best of the best in the U.S. government? Like, who's our top brass right now?
We do really need to produce chips domestically, but it's like we have a meeting with basically, Bob, the intern, and it's probably not good.
He'll send an email out to the higher ups, but they won't ever read it.
Yeah, no, it's like no one really understands. No one really.
No.
But she's here. She's trying to be nice. She understands. So it's good.
Oh, for the next story, how excited were you for this?
You got to pay for it.
Yeah. Twitter starts testing an edit button, but you have to pay for it. It is only for, I think, verified users right now.
I haven't even seen anybody with an edited tweet.
I haven't seen an edited tweet. I did see this particular tweet. This is an edited tweet. We're testing it. My favorite take on it, though, someone was like, what happens with quoted tweets? Will they automatically update with the edit tag? Or?
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
No, they won't. It's also a lot of fun because when you've got a hot take on Twitter, it's already the case that you just automatically screenshot whatever it is that you're responding to because they'll just delete it.
Right.
So, and then
That's just part of being online anymore.
yeah, people will come in later and be like, I can't see what you're responding to. It's because it was deleted.
Yeah.
But a screenshot.
A screenshot can still be edited really easily, but at least it's something, I guess.
Could be worse. Could definitely be worse.
I don't think it's a bad feature, though. And I like that. So when you click on like the edited part, like the little pencil or whatever, it'll show you all the versions. So it'll be hard for someone to just be like, here's something that everyone agrees with, and then changing it to something terrible.
So meanwhile, Twitter is working on the edit button. They were also working on being their own OnlyFans, but then they ran into some problems.
How Twitter's... I can't say that.
Problem.
How Twitter's problem ruined its plans for an OnlyFans competitor.
So it turns out there was already a lot of adult content on Twitter when they started to do this, and I looked into it.
And a lot of it was non-consensual and unfortunately involving minors.
Yeah, it was not great. So what do? You just freeze up. You just freeze up and, you delete it, I guess. You go nuts deleting things. But
apparently it's still a major problem. And according to the internal report, they do not have the means to monitor it, even if it was behind a paywall, a la OnlyFans.
So literally cannot have a paywall because that would only make the problem worse. Ugh.
Why is everything so terrible?
It's not a good look for Twitter. I wonder if that's going to end up in Musk's lawsuit. So Musk will cite this as like, well, I didn't know this was so much of a problem because they've never really represented this as a problem to shareholders. And so, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We have a little bit of a follow-up about Musk and Twitter later. So
yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself with it. We're still in government. There's so many government
No, I think we're in social now.
Or social.
Yeah. So we should... I think the Musk story is in social. So
I mean, we're not on the next episode of the news where we can talk about this. I'm sorry. The next episode of the show.
The show, yeah. It's not news. It's just links that we share.
Just links we share.
And here's our next link. Real money, fake musicians inside $1 million Instagram verification scheme. This is the most tragically pathetic thing that I have ever read.
This was so convoluted. I had trouble following what was actually happening.
It took me a couple reads.
It wasn't until I realized that something that I would never value was really highly valued by these people. And so, and then it made more sense.
Yeah, so people want that blue check mark because, it's the clout of being on the gram and having the blue check mark. You can't easily get it for things, I guess, like television or like I'm a well-known doctor. But apparently it's really easy to get it through Spotify. Like if you have a lot of plays and listens on Spotify. So people just made Spotify accounts, put some random music on it, and then botted it. And then Instagram was like, oh, that looks legit, and gave them a check mark.
Yeah. Oops.
And there was a lot more details to it, but that's the gist. It was apparently kind of like... I read that article and I was like, some journalist had to spend how many months probably putting together all that evidence and then had to write about it, and then they got busted. And
yeah, if we did an episode of this on it, we would earn $1.35. So
yeah, it's kind of, it reads a little bit like fandom drama.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like fandom for Instagram, which is strange.
Somebody was really excited about what they discovered.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, all I could sit there thinking was, who cares? And
right.
Really? Are we putting this much work into this?
Yeah.
Imagine if we put that much work into curing cancer.
That's how I felt after I did my Lord of the Rings essay. I was like, who cares? Like, why did I do this? Why?
Well, that was at least entertaining.
It was entertaining. Unlike apparently the new show, which apparently is mostly just kind of beautiful but dull.
And unlike Netflix, soon.
Snap's chief business officer is leaving to run ads at Netflix.
Netflix is working on a cheaper ad-supported tier after jacking up the prices and driving subscribers away.
See, I feel like that's Hulu's model, and I never understood why anyone would pay for Hulu and then have to watch ads. Yeah. You're paying to watch ads.
There's really not much to this Verge story, but just one person has left. And it's always fun to watch the reactions in Ad Age because... this is
Ad
new
Age
innovation.
Is such a weird magazine.
It's so exciting, and then you look at it. It's like, who would be excited for this? Only people in the ad industry.
Well, I mean, Ad Age is an industry magazine, but they are really enthusiastic about everything.
As an industry magazine, they should constantly be reminding people that the stuff that you do is basically optional and can go away at any time.
It's intangible. It's not real. It don't matter. None of this matters.
I'm sure some people at Snap are feeling that way too.
Snap plans to lay off 20% of employees. So this is very boomer of me, but I had a moment I was like, Snap. And then it's like Snapchat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, when did they change their name? I completely missed that. Because
Their-
Snapchat's not relevant anymore.
Their stock price has declined nearly 80% this year. 80%.
Yeah. And they had hired, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, almost double their workforce. So they are not doing so hot right now.
Yeah, they worked on ways for developers to build mini apps and games inside of Snapchat, and no one cared.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Well, and the thing is, like, Snap used to be kind of popular because it had all the filters and stuff, but now every app has that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch, but it seems like it isn't as relevant as it used to be.
We can make our app difficult to use because people will keep coming back because of the filters, or they'll just use something else.
That also has filters now.
Speaking of which,
Facebook is shutting down its standalone gaming app in October.
man, remember when they launched this and they were so excited about this? This is going to change our metrics forever. It's going to keep people engaged. Remember Farmville? Remember how successful...
Farmville was massive in the day.
And then there were a bunch of games that started out as Facebook games and became wildly successful, even more wildly successful when they moved away from Facebook. Was Peggle one of those? I don't know if it was...
remember that.
Maybe Peggle or Candy Crush.
Candy Crush was on Facebook for a while, I think.
I mean, I think one of those games, maybe not Peggle or Candy Crush, but one of those games that you've heard of was insanely popular on Facebook and Facebook games. And then they just went out on their own. And then everybody was like, this is the best thing since Pocket on a Shirt. And
they still played it, yeah.
It turned out Facebook wasn't relevant for that equation.
Yeah, like YouTube kind of tried to do this too with YouTube gaming, and like it had middling success, but like YouTube has quite a bit of gaming content, so it makes a little more sense. Facebook, their main demographic, probably not interested in it.
And I'm sure what Mark Zuckerberg wanted was, if you want to experience the original Flappy Bird, you must come to Facebook
gaming. Yeah. Well, and why don't they should put all their resources into Marketplace, because that's the only thing Facebook's good for.
Let local people connect with one another and complain about local things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you get a mob, though, sometimes. Speaking of which,
Scoop, Truth Social's Google Play Store holdup. This article was really funnily written, I thought.
Yeah, Google is basically saying the Truth Social app is not going to be allowed because they don't moderate their content enough.
My favorite part, though, was that, so they're both complaining that the other one is the holdup. So the guy who runs Truth Social was like, I don't know what the holdup is. That was his only quote in the article. And then Google's like, here's this well-reasoned response about why you're not on here and you need to make some changes. And they're like, I don't know why it's not working.
For example, in response to a post from National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, former security advisor, an account called The Victim 24 posted last week, it'd be nice if you people weren't just okay with the military police staging a rebellion and framing civilians. 0 people trust the police, and if the military comes in, we will kill them.
It's like, ooh. But apparently that wasn't flagged or like marked as, hey, this is a little bit extreme.
Yeah, and so Google's like, well, if you have that on there, we cannot...
we can't publish it.
We can't have that, yeah.
Also, the real takeaway from this article was that Android users are only 44%.
Wow.
Which I kind of thought was a little surprising. I guess a lot of people use iPhones, but... Because Apple Store allows it, but Google does not.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do, and there definitely is room to do it well. The problem is that the crazies have made both, like you can't go anywhere and not find crazies on either side of the spectrum. You can't have a reasonable conversation anymore. It's like, oh, let's come together and, try to empathize with one another and understand what our differences are. It's literally, I couldn't get Granny Smith apples at the store today. It's your fault. Let's stage a military intervention.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa. You think maybe we could be okay with Honeycrisps for just a few days? And it's
no. Yeah,
that's... Like, are you North Korean?
Yeah, this is, we're living in strange times where it does feel, even like stupid things are super polarized now.
Yeah. We really should help some of the states with their infrastructure, drinking water.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's no money for that. Okay, well.
But you're sending in the National Guard, which seems like a Band-Aid solution, and you still have to pay them. So,
our next story is kind of fun because I don't think that it's willingly becoming this.
Yeah, Twitter is becoming a podcast app. They introduced a feature a while back where you could do like vocal hangout kind of things, and now people are using Twitter to do podcasts.
Hot pod. Woo. The thing that's the problem with that is anytime I'm on Twitter, it's usually because I have to read. Like
You're like out in public or something. Yeah.
I wouldn't really want that.
I
We had that in the 80s. Remember the people that walked around with boom boxes? Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Well, and I feel like I'm maybe a little bit alone in this. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I listen to like a couple. I listen to the L1 show. Patreon float plane. But no, I don't see, especially from Twitter. I feel like it wouldn't curate my list very well.
Yeah, for media like that I consume, I like getting it. I like having my phone or my computer go and get it and collect it for me, and then when I have a block of time, I can, zoom through a bunch of things. And that's nice.
Yeah.
I don't have to go get it because it's too much work to go get it. I need it brought to me. Speaking of things brought to you.
Good segue. Facebook parent settles in Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is a weirdly written headline. It should be Meta.
Yeah.
Meta settles this lawsuit.
But it's not for a lot of money. Like I'm kind of surprised about this.
That was probably just, whatever. Write the check.
Yeah, and this whole the whole conclusion to the Cambridge Analytica saga, even in the AP, is just a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot here.
Not a lot of detail.
And Sheryl Sandberg? She's still retiring, right? Yeah, who's stepping down after a 14-year stint. Yeah, she could be questioned for up to 5 hours. So
she read the writing on the wall. She's like, I'm out.
Yeah, she's going to the villa that we discussed earlier. It's like, you know what? I've got enough. I'm good.
I'm done. Yeah. I don't believe in the metaverse.
And you teased this earlier.
Yes. Musk versus Twitter. Judge orders both sides to turn over more documents.
Ooh.
I thought that this was pretty fair. The judge who was like, hey, you're both kind of being unreasonable here.
I thought it was pretty fair. And I thought that, in terms of establishing credibility for some of the stuff that Musk was saying, I think Musk came out a little bit ahead here. Because some of the stuff that he asked for them to turn over, I thought was, well, okay, here's where you said this, and then we have this document, and if you read both of those, it does look like there's a discontinuity there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there were other things that Musk had done, and it's like, well, this is clearly maneuvering. So.
Well, yeah, and I guess Musk apparently asked for like an obscene amount of documents from like years ago that were apparently only vaguely relevant, and the judge was like, no, you can get stuff from like 6 months ago, but you don't need stuff from like 5 years ago.
Explain to me how you're going to use that to determine what's relevant about the company now, which is reasonable.
Yeah, so I felt like this was this was a very reasonable development overall. I don't know if anyone came out ahead necessarily, but
the only one who wins are the lawyers.
Yeah, that's who came out ahead in this, and they will continue to come out ahead no matter who wins.
And our final, most depressing story is...
I have a different take. 1 in 4 Gen Z-ers plan to become social media influencers.
The thing that set the tone for the article for me was, what was it? It was about men specifically.
Men were more into it. They were more clout chasers than women.
Well, it was... men saw the only possible path for their career was to become an influencer.
49%
it's just like,
of Gen Zers. I looked at the actual study that like their website. It didn't define Gen Z, so I'm not sure how old these people were. I'm assuming more on the younger side of Gen Z. The thing I thought about it when I kind of like changed the wording in my head, it made a little more sense. If you change influencer to salesperson, advertiser, that might make more sense.
Yeah, if you do that, maybe it's.
I mean, it's still kind of pathetic because I imagine there's still a lot of like, ooh, I'll get to go to exotic places, and like it's a little childish to think that. But if you think about it, like, oh, I'll just be a salesperson for brands. That's been a thing for as long as ever.
Yeah, well, I think that it speaks to a deeper thing that we as a society have failed if that is the only thing that those folks see as fulfilling. That's not their fault. That's
what's being peddled everywhere.
Yeah, that's what they
consume.
brought up to believe. It's like you could be a plumber or an electrician, that's what I always go to. And it's like, you can have lots of really awesome, it's like, you built this thing. Somebody is going to be using the plumbing that you installed in that house for the next 100 years. As
It's
long as
physical
the house,
and tangible, and like you
Yeah.
go home at the end of the day and you feel like you've done something.
is anybody going to be digging through episodes of the Level 1 show in 100 years?
You don't know that.
Probably not.
This is all that's going to survive the coming apocalypse, and this is all they'll have to like judge our society on.
There's a guy in this building. They installed the cast iron plumbing about 1913, and he installed a combination TY when he should have used a 90-degree bend. So he made a mistake doing the plumbing. It should have had a different bend radius, and because it was too gentle of a slope, that particular arm constantly clogs. So that mistake has been with us for 100 years. And I'm thinking about them. And it's like, why did you do that? Did you, I know that you knew better than to put a combination TY in. Why would you do that? Was that all you had on the truck that day? Were you not thinking, was this meant to be something else?
Maybe that's how it was done back then. Like everyone did that same mistake.
It was wrong. So wrong. There are other fittings that were done correctly. But maybe there was something weird going on. I don't know. But you could do those horizontally, but vertically, why did you do that?
Whereas most social media content, it'll just be ephemeral and gone.
Yeah. It is fun though. If you look at 100-year-old newspapers, there are sections of the newspaper that read like a Facebook timeline. It literally is a Facebook timeline.
Well, that's like a thing. So in my little town that I grew up in, when I graduated college, my mom put a little thing in the newspaper, and like everyone does that in my little town. That's still a thing in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I was looking at 100-year-old newspapers from around here, and it was like, Miss B Samantha is visiting cousins in a town that's 12 miles away for the next month, and it's like,
so that way people can know to come visit her.
Yeah, it's like, why would she only moved? It's like 12 miles. We don't need to put a newspaper in that you went on a 12-mile trip to visit cousins.
But that's the thing, though. People want to connect.
And other ones was like, oh, they're going to be in Chicago. Don't rob their house.
It was sad to see like 49% of young Gen Z men thought this was their main career path forward. A lot of them said that if they were in college or if they had a job, they would quit if they had an opportunity to do this as well. Surprisingly high numbers.
I think that if you were doing something other than influencing, you can just share that and people will be interested in it. And that's more real and genuine anyway, because a lot of the people that, this talks about people that get $1 million on Instagram, the life they live and what is actually posted are completely different things. Once you get to that level,
it's all marketing, yeah.
And once you get to that level of success, it's not real anymore.
I mean, like us, we're just bathing in money and going to Buc-ee's every afternoon.
I'm replacing that cast iron with PVC for real.
Living in luxury. It's not even real. What you see in social media.
I'm fixing my boiler lines. I'm doing the computer janitorial thing.
Swimming in banana pudding every day.
Oh yeah, so much.
In your gold-plated pool of banana pudding.
Banana pudding. Yeah, see that wouldn't be real. It's because it's wildly impractical. But it's fun to think about. And that's all we've got for this episode. What have we got for tomorrow?
I don't think we have sorted. Ryan usually does the sorting, and so whenever it's just me and Wendell, it's just chaotic mode.
It's business and something.
Yeah, business was a long section. I think it'll probably be business and security.
Yeah, probably business and security. And then robot nonsense on Friday.
All right, we'll see you guys then. Bye! Hello, welcome back to Level 1 News. I think today's the 7th. We forgot to look before we started recording.
It is the 7th.
It is the 7th. And we're doing business and security news.
So much business news. So much
Mostly
business
bad news, as usual.
News. Well, interesting news. I mean, how often do you sue your customers?
Arm sues Qualcomm, aiming to unwind Qualcomm's $1.4 billion Nuvia purchase.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. Patrick from Serve the Home did a really good video on this. He actually has a legal background for things like this. But Qualcomm has a bunch of licenses already from ARM to do stuff. And Nuvia did as well. And so Qualcomm acquired Nuvia. And it seems like the big question is the stuff that Nuvia developed on top of ARM's IP capable of existing independently of that? Or does Nuvia, not have say in stuff that they developed with regard to how the IP was licensed from ARM on which their IP was built? Is it components? Can you just Lego from A to B? Or does it sort of depend on the ecosystem? ARM's argument seems to be that
It's the cornerstone.
yeah, that
The
hey,
foundation.
because this is our intellectual property, we're basically a third party to this merger deal acquisition or whatever. We weren't consulted, and Qualcomm's been negotiating with them apparently for the last year, at least according to the lawsuit, or 2 years, something like that. And they haven't been able to come to an agreement. So if Qualcomm's going to release a server product, a server CPU product, they may not have a license to use the ARM intellectual property and branding and some other stuff. Maybe not. I don't know. Seems like the courts are going to figure that out, or these folks are going to hurry to a settlement. But at the same time, ARM licenses their stuff to everybody. And there's also Ampere. Ampere, we're going to have another video about Ampere rolling out their ARM CPUs that are now available in Azure. So if you're Ampere and you're looking at this, you're thinking, ooh, yeah.
Am I in trouble?
Because what if Microsoft wanted to acquire Ampere because everything is so good? Amazon has Graviton. Amazon's not going to sell Graviton to third parties. But what if Microsoft wanted to acquire, Ampere? They would look at this and maybe say, well, that's going to probably be a conversation with ARM. Does ARM get a cut? So I think this is going to create a lot of really interesting side effects in the industry for a long, long time to come. It's also going to be really interesting to see what Qualcomm's response to this is. They haven't filed that yet.
The winners, as usual, are the lawyers.
Yeah. Oh boy, lawyers probably going to get 9 figures from this. Yeah, a lot of money. Over probably a 10-year period. We're probably still going to be talking about this lawsuit in 10 years from now. Oh, look at that.
Microsoft EU cloud revisions just so happen to exclude Google and Amazon.
So in the EU, Microsoft said, hey, if you don't want to use our cloud services and you want to roll your own with your own on-premise infrastructure or use our software or whatever, you totally can. That'll foster competition and innovation. And then somebody looked at the fine print and said, well, you won't let us use your tools in Amazon or Google.
Yeah, but they actually are big enough to compete with us. So, also, my favorite comment on this article was, is this where server admins go when they go to heaven? What a picture.
Look at all this data.
Oh, it's beautiful. But hell on the backside, it's like all the cables are just everywhere.
Yeah, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, your responsibility is to fix all the spaghetti nightmare nonsense without somebody coming to yell at you that you took something down.
What an image.
Oh, fun times. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the EU as well, because I would say that Microsoft has been a little better about giving up some of its special sauce in the cloud than some of the other cloud providers, but ultimately it's not really going to matter. It's like, oh, Amazon has got their own AWS CLI and all the tools that go with that. No one's going to care because it's all reduced to such a commodity that it just ends up being, I need block storage, I need compute, I need database, I need low latency, whatever, and that's what you're buying, regardless of the command line or physical interface for it. And I think that EU legislation sort of misses the mark a little bit on talking about it in that infrastructure. The EU, if the EU really wants to do what they're trying to do here, they're going to have to reduce what Amazon and Microsoft and others are selling, in the cloud to just commodity services. So you can't sell San Marzano tomatoes. You just have tomatoes.
Can't be specifically branded.
Only San Marzano tomatoes can come from San Marzano. Only Azure brand. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work.
I've grown San Marzano in my garden.
Oh, don't say that out loud.
They are a great variety. They are hard to find.
They'll hunt you down.
Kentucky grown.
Speaking of hunting you down, if it's Kentucky grown, you're not allowed to call it San Marzano.
Crypto.com sues woman after sending her 10 million by mistake report. It was actually 10.5.
The hilarious thing about this is that it took them a while to notice. It wasn't until an audit like a year or two later.
She bought a house.
She is not winning the lawsuit, however. The judge ordered her to sell the house and give the money back.
How could you not? How could you possibly win?
Could at least take the money and earn some interest on it for a while until they noticed.
I had that thought too. I was like, if she sold it for a profit, because how crazy the real estate market is, will they make her give the profits back too, or does she get to keep all of it?
Yeah. Speaking of just craziness.
Amazon facing unfavorable regulatory environment, struggles to expand in India.
Let's just talk about the subtle messaging here from TechCrunch. This is Jeff Bezos, and he's obviously participating in some kind of an event, but look how awkward. He's so awkward.
Yeah, I had the same thought when I looked at the image, and I was like, is this supposed to be like a cultural thing, or like he just...
Would Jeff Bezos be doing this if he didn't want the market?
No.
The answer is no. He doesn't. It's like, does Jeff Bezos have genuine respect for, the cultural thing that he's participating in here? No.
No. Not even a little.
Just not even a little bit. Flipkart apparently is also doing really well. I love it when we do the stories that talk about Flipkart, because in the beginning we did some of the stories about Flipkart, and it talked about how they were just kind of a ragtag bunch of everything was held together with baling wire and duct tape, and it is able to challenge Amazon to the point that Amazon was like, we want to buy those, and in India they were like, not so fast there, Lord Bezos.
You're not getting that. I don't know a whole lot about it, but like they kind of like a Dollar General.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's like, this is if Flipkart had problems tomorrow, there would be a lot of people very, very upset.
Yeah.
So 85% of our customers in tier 2, tier 3 town cities shopping in India's largest selection across all this stuff. Everyday essentials. We are humbled to be in the literal fabric of daily lives in India.
This kind of felt like the last part of it felt like a puff piece, but then if you read this, it says this story was updated with Amazon's approval, I think.
The response.
The response, yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Their response was a bunch of PR fluff.
I mean, this is all interesting for a lot of reasons, but it's like coming from yay capitalism part of the world. It is really interesting to watch how an organization like Amazon assimilates something that is not quite the same capitalism that we have, and how they assimilate that and sort of bring all that together. It's really, it doesn't seem like it's the best for the people over there, which is...
Is it really the best for the people here to have Amazon control everything, or Walmart?
Yeah, but the way it happened here, it's harder to be... it's easier to sort of see a pattern from the outside. And then you think about here, and it's like, oh,
they put all the little businesses out of business, and now we have to go to Amazon or Walmart.
Not only, it's like they put them out of business, but also we lost the knowledge.
Yeah.
We forgot how to do that. We forgot how to grow tomatoes.
Yeah, or repair our own stuff, or, because all those shops went out.
There was a reason he put that combination TY in. I don't know why he did that. It's bugging me. Or maybe it was just a mistake.
When did you discover that? You've been gone like all week.
No, that was the disaster before I left, because it was like the cast iron was finally giving out, and it's like, do I go ahead and replace this, or do I just wrap this up in some pipe stuff and
just hope it's okay?
Yeah.
This is a problem for future, Wendell.
Yeah. So
I said that about the dishes last night. This is a problem for future, Krista.
Speaking of a problem that's now a problem for future everybody.
Smart Dry's useful laundry sensor to be cloud bricked next month.
I have a Samsung dryer, and it has the sensor in it, and it is garbage.
It is Internet of Things related. If it's connected to the internet, they can brick it whenever.
So this was cool. You put this thing in a pocket of a pair of pants or something, and it would tell you when your stuff was dry, and it worked great. And it would get on your Wi-Fi. The problem is that it would have to talk to a server on the cloud. It couldn't just tell you. And the server in the cloud is going away. Fortunately, people have figured out how to modify it. You can use it with Home Assistant. If you have one of these and you do that, post some pictures to the Level 1 forum. I'll plug it and we'll take a look at it and that kind of thing. You can reprogram it with an ESP32. But people really liked this because it was so much better than their built-in dryer sensor in their dryer. And I can definitely say that the Samsung dryer that I have, the dry sensor, it's trash. The clothes can be dripping wet, or they can be paper dry, and there's no
discernible way.
Yeah, it's just random. It's completely random.
See, I've got a dumb dryer. We got like the stupidest rock dumb simple dryer we could get, so we have to check it manually.
Yeah, and it's really annoying to do because it's like, oh, that burning smell means the clothes are dry. It's like,
what?
Because they get super dry, and like if you do timed, so it's like, it'll probably take about an hour to dry these, and for whatever reason, it only takes 40 minutes. Your clothes are just baking for 20 minutes. And so
I've not had that experience.
you open it up and it's like, oh, everything's dry. Yeah, the Samsung, it's timed or auto dry. So usually you use auto dry, and then you see how terrible they are, and then you get them all the way dry in increments of 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah. It's like, oh, it's just a little bit damp. Yeah, I have had that experience. When it's like I want to wear a certain shirt, and I'll tumble dry it real quick.
But sometimes I'm lazy, and it's like, let's just set it for an hour, and I'll check on it every 10 minutes. And then I don't check on it every 10 minutes. And then it's like, ooh, that didn't turn out good. So, yeah, Internet of Things. Thanks. Internet
Once
of
again.
Things. So bad. All this should have been sorted with the other stories, but that's okay.
Intel, who coined the term patent troll, makes deal with patent troll to monetize unused patents. Did I read this right, that they set up like a little corporation just to...
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they set up... it's like, we're going to monetize these unused patents by trolling other companies.
They made a company just to hold them, right? Like, that was kind of the gist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really scummy.
Yeah. It's it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. This story is a little preemptive. Maybe it won't be used as terribly as it is, but at the same time, what was this? Tech Dirt is sort of putting them on notice to say, hey,
we noticed.
We're paying attention to what you're doing. Don't troll.
And we know the name of the company.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to troll other companies that are making products to compete with yours? Because it's not, you're not always the clear winner in some cases. And that's where I was last week.
AMD launches Zen 4 Ryzen 7000 CPUs, arrives September 27th, starting at $299.
Yep. So they announced 4 different CPUs. I did a live stream after that. You can go check that out and learn more. I know a lot more now, but we'll talk about that a little closer to launch. Actual launch. Some stuff. Exciting times. But yeah, new CPUs, new 16 core, $700, all the way down to the 6 core at $300. Some people are already freaking out. It's like, there's already really good CPUs right now available today that cost less than $300. Shouldn't this be less? And it's like, I don't know. We'll have to look at it and see. It'll be interesting. A lot of stuff going on.
You're an influencer. You're the Gen Z influencer. Gen Z people look at you and they're like, I want to be him.
No, please, no.
I don't think our audience has a lot of Gen Z. We skew a little older.
I don't think our audience has a lot of Gen Z, and if they've been paying attention, they know they should definitely not do that. They've made horrible life choices.
If you just do solely influencing, yes.
You share your passion for things, but don't let your passion for things be your only passion. That's the paradox. And then you don't have time for other things.
Well, your only monetary gain be your passion, because then you'll learn to hate it.
Have you had enough technology? No, I want more. You know what people have had enough of, though?
Yeah, trading volume on top NFT marketplace OpenSea down 99% in USD from May peak. That is an obscene drop.
You dig into this a little bit, and this is trading volume by dollar amount, not trading volume by number of transactions. The number of transactions was still surprisingly high. It's not 99%. It is way down. But in terms of like the value of those transactions, yes, they are 99% loss in value, because some of those Bored Apes were like $200,000-$300,000.
I'll never understand NFTs. Maybe that makes me old, but...
Engagement challenge. Did Seth Rogen ever get his stolen Bored Ape back? Is that a thing? Wasn't he working on a TV show with that?
Oh, yeah. We should
check on that.
Yeah, so we should do an update on that if he has.
And then, while Intel and AMD are duking it out, other things are happening elsewhere in the industry.
Microsoft launches Arm-based Azure VMs powered by Ampere chips.
So this is ARM. You can get ARM stuff. Windows 11 Pro and Linux, of course. But Windows 11 Pro on Ampere ARM? What? If this is really good, then Microsoft could save a bunch of money. But, it doesn't mean that ARM is going to be completely taking over Azure overnight. But like Graviton instances in Amazon, it may be, low cost, high value for certain kinds of workloads.
Every time you say Graviton, I think of Zarya's ult from Overwatch. Like, wait, what?
Graviton is what Amazon called their special sauce ARM CPU. And those are, it looks, I don't know this, I don't have any insider knowledge, but it looks to me like Amazon used Graviton for years internally for the services that you bought from Amazon, but you didn't need to know what CPU it was running on. It was just like the service. And then they got, they sort of worked the bugs out. And then they had the second version of Graviton. That's the one they announced. And then actually we're on like Graviton version 3 now, which might actually be the fourth version, maybe the fourth or fifth version of Graviton. And this third version is really good. It is shockingly good. It's really cheap, but very fast. And so it definitely seems like Amazon wants you to buy, new compute or database instances that are based on their ARM CPU. So this could be a real threat to both AMD and Intel, depending on what kind of workloads you want to run. Because some of that's trading. And if you want to run this kind of workload, it's better to have the facilities of x86. If you want to run this kind of workload, maybe ARM is better per watt. Depends on what you want to optimize for. But I did think that this is interesting that now all of the major providers, and this is kind of a footnote in the article, but I'll call it out, Tencent Cloud, JD Cloud, and uCloud ARM-based VMs. So basically everybody is getting in on the ARM game. I don't know. It could be interesting. Speaking of people getting in on games,
Sony's new PlayStation Studios mobile team is making spin-off games for your phone. I wasn't that excited about this, but it was some pretty big games, I think.
Let's bring in Sony's new PlayStation Studio mobile team to make a mobile version of the next PUBG.
I don't know. Not really mobile gaming, but
this is Sony. Sony wants more mobile games. I think that
probably because they can pack them with microtransactions easier.
Yeah. It's like Uncharted Legacy of Thieves and Marvel Spider-Man.
I was like, those are pretty big names, I guess. Like,
Genshin
I don't
Impact.
play them. But...
Oh, yeah. PUBG Mobile and Pokemon Go. Yeah. So, I think that mobile games, especially with like augmented reality stuff where you can hold up your phone and, you see through your phone's camera.
The siren. They usually can't hear the siren. We had an ambulance go by last week and everyone was like, oh, I didn't really hear it that well.
Well, that's good.
Apparently these are hyper-directional. So
yeah, super directional ASMR. Oh my gosh. No. The whole mobile game thing, the innovation is going to come from games we haven't imagined yet. Like Pokemon Go, for what it was really innovational because it sort of reimagined what you could do with your phone. So porting, other kinds of games to your phone is like trying to get, traditional games to run on like the Wii or the one with the motion sensor.
A game that was designed for a very specific use case and platform, and then just like, what if I just shrunk it? And it's like, well, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
It might work, but it's not gonna be the same experience usually.
Yeah. So if Sony's mobile team was more like, we're gonna help you adapt the Spider-Man IP into a new game.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Then okay, maybe.
That's the thing, though. It's like no one wants to take a chance on something new. Even if they have like an established IP, they could make a new Spider-Man game for mobile.
A Lord of the Rings game where you hunt the ring.
Oh. That's where we're going. Marvel Cinematic Universe for Lord of the Rings. I hate it.
I can't wait for the Super Smash Brothers where you can play as not Galron. That's Star Trek.
That's coming for you too. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Star Trek.
Oh no!
Mobile games, but Star Trek. It actually already exists.
You know who's not getting the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Dell ceases all Russian operations after August office closure.
This article gets into it a little bit, but it's not just, it's like, oh, you can't buy Dell computers, blah, blah, blah. It turns out that a lot of these companies had Russian offices that were doing some kind of productivity, like software, building a dashboard, that kind of thing. And so this exodus from Russia is affecting a lot of companies more than just sales, more than just their integration, because there was a workforce there doing advanced work or doing programming or doing, advanced analysis or things other than sales. And that's all gone now, basically. And it's not easy, a lot of that knowledge was siloed. So it's not like we can just, have the Colorado team take over what the Moscow team was doing.
Yeah, it's a kind of a big difference, I assume.
Yeah. Speaking of that kind of frustration.
Google employees frustrated after office pandemic outbreaks. Some call to modify vaccine policy.
So some people at Google are unvaxxed, and they're saying, well, look at all the people that are back in the office. If you come back to the office, you have to be vaxxed. They're still getting it.
Yeah.
So maybe we just do away with that and it doesn't matter. Like, can we do that, please?
How would just not go to the office? Like, if you don't need to be in the office.
Yeah, that never seems to be an option, does it?
Yeah, it's like just don't go in. Especially if you're not feeling well. Just don't go in.
Let's just
work from home.
Not go to the office. Or just go to the office very sparingly, as needed.
Yeah.
But all these companies, no, we have the fancy offices with the real estate. We really need to get everybody in.
Yeah, we can't afford to keep these offices if we don't have everybody coming in.
Yeah.
And they can't sell it, probably, because it's so hyper specific for that company.
Yeah, sort of horrifying. This was also kind of horrifying, but maybe it's a good news.
India railway firm scraps plan to monetize customer data following an uproar.
So, okay, the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we've done all kinds of stories where people in India don't really understand what's happening with big technology companies and big data, but they sort of recognize, oh, we've made some missteps here. We need to block this or do that. And so there's a lot of things that are going on that are knee-jerk reactions. But I got to say, this one I think is probably pretty good. The railway firm was going to sell a bunch of people's data, and they looked at it and they said, wait a minute, you're blocking Google and Amazon and Apple from doing the same kind of thing, but we have a domestic company that's going to be permitted to do this?
That doesn't make it better, just because it's a domestic company.
And so they've backed away from doing this, which is good, but because there was a lot of people that use the railway system, and when you use the railway system, and are you going first class, or are you going, presumably all that data was going to have
your first and last name, like where you're traveling from.
Yeah. The company, I think there was a memo or something from the company that they expected to make 100 million. I don't know if that was local currency or US dollars. 125 million US dollars. The plan, had it been approved, would have helped the firm increase revenue by more than $125 million.
It's a lot of money.
Your data is worth a lot of money that will never benefit you directly, which is just sad.
Oh, this is a story. I thought this was in another section, but yeah, this is the story we kind of mentioned last episode.
Yeah, remember how California was talking about its electricity shortages and please don't plug in your electric car? But, imagine a world where your electric car refuses to charge even if you plug it in. Oh, wait.
Thousands of XL customers locked out of thermostats during energy emergency. We've seen this story before, I think, in Texas as well.
We even have a similar program like this here, where if you sign up with your power company, they put a thing in your power meter and a thing inside your house. It's actually not even inside your house. It's on the heat pump. And so the fan will run. You can turn the fan on, but they control whether or not the heat pump actually kicks on or off. And during peak load, the power company can send a signal that will prevent your heat pump from coming on. And most people don't realize that their air conditioner is not working because it'll still let it come on. Sometimes it'll circulate the air. But this is a more advanced version of that, where the power company actually provides a smart thermostat, but the smart thermostat is saying, no, you can't. Your house is just going to run at 87 degrees, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
You're just going to suffer. Yeah, I think it was set to 78, but I think some people mentioned that their houses got up to like 85, 88.
Yeah. And then a lot of people were saying, I didn't read the fine print, and it didn't say that. Uh-huh. But there's a picture of it here.
They can do it, though, because you signed up for that program.
Temperature blocked temporarily during energy emergency. Why is there an energy emergency? Because they didn't upgrade the infrastructure.
I feel like it's just getting worse. Like, they keep doing these Band-Aid solutions, but they're not actually upgrading things that they should.
At some point, somebody recognized that we needed an interstate highway system, and they built the interstate highway system. There was a lot of teeth gnashing at the time. There still is. But I think looking
it's
back...
so useful, though.
Yeah, looking back, it's like, that was probably the right move.
That was absolutely the right move.
I think we're going to have to do something like that with the power grid, looking at the disaster that is California and or Texas.
I mean, here, too. Every time it's a little breezy, our power either flickers or goes out.
Yeah, and it's not like the feds haven't already subsidized a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I digress.
LG's first bendable OLED TV lets you pick between flat or curved models. I had a stroke halfway through reading that.
It literally is a TV that is bendable. So
who is that for?
Some people really like curved monitors.
But why would you not just buy it curved prematurely? Like, why do you need to curve it yourself?
The only use case that I could see for this is if you have kind of a big monitor, and sometimes you want to sit close to it, and sometimes you want to sit far away from it. So if I want to watch TV, I can be far away. But if I want to play a video game, I want to be close up. If I'm close up, curved makes sense. I could see that. And if I'm far away, I don't like curved. I don't want curved far away. So maybe if you have an apartment and your monitor is doing double duty as...
So you've a van life dweller, you've got your gaming rig in your van.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm sitting right at my computer. Probably should be curved. Now I'm, relaxing in the back of the van. No curve. Okay, maybe.
Maybe. I do feel like that's a very niche segment, though. Why put the energy into this?
It may also be cheaper to manufacture. So you just have one production line.
That's
Let's
probably
just make
the
the
real
one
reason.
TV, and then there we go.
Can you imagine though, like you pull it out of the box and it's like, oh, it bent on one side, and like people immediately getting upset because they don't understand.
Oh yeah, people don't understand anything. It's crazy.
It probably says foldable on the box, but they just bought the TV.
This is also really surprised me, and then I sort of missed the part where they said it was Norway, and then I got to the end and I was like, Norway, wow, okay.
Yeah, this is strange. Angry Tesla owners go on hunger strike over quality problems.
I love this picture.
This is a great photo. I wonder if they did this like for the article or if it was a stock image.
This is the angry owners. So a bunch of people in Norway have Teslas and they're dissatisfied.
So they've mentioned a few things that we've heard before about like it's not waterproof, the interior glue comes undone, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of problems with the cars. So these people wanted to get Elon Musk's attention, so they're on a hunger strike, which, considering who Elon Musk is, I don't think he's the most empathetic individual. I don't know that he'll care.
I really don't think he'll care.
No, not even a little.
Why? Why must this?
Well, it seems like, maybe talking to quality, like calling the company seems like it would be better than talking to Musk, but...
Is there a consumer protection division? Can we get that done? Also, this was kind of a rare thing. There was you guys probably covered it last week, the week before. There was a really important Apple security update, but older devices don't really get very many updates. Except this time,
Apple releases rare iOS 12 update to address security flaw on older iPhones and iPads.
This goes all the way back to the iPhone 5.
That's a long time
That
ago.
was a very long time ago. Because if you went to the wrong web page, somebody could take over your iPhone remotely. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
That's like $1 million bug.
Whoever found it probably didn't get paid peanuts.
So update your Apple device because this is your once and forever update.
We probably have some old iPhones that are just sitting that we use for testing that probably need that.
Speaking of things that were a little surprising.
Court orders Telegram to disclose personal details of pirating users.
So if you use Telegram and you have a private Telegram network, it's sort of come to the attention of some copyright holders that there's rampant piracy in India. It's like, does anybody have the latest episode of
Hot D?
Of Hot D?
Hot D. That's House of the Dragon. I love that the abbreviation is Hot D.
So the High Court in Delhi ordered Telegram to share the personal details of copyright infringing users with right holders. It's not enough that they remove the channels. We got to find the individuals. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we, though?
Maybe people are tired of having to pay for 20 streaming services. It can't be the consumer who's wrong.
we will extract our pound of flesh.
Yeah.
Maybe if we had a more secure platform for keeping track of passwords, we could have better end-to-end security.
Dashlane is ready to replace all your passwords with passkeys.
This feels like a paid ad.
I also read this and I was like, is this even a story or is this just an advertisement?
They're not wrong. This is basically, this is kind of a forced password manager with actually secure passwords, but also the password manager has a cloud sync capability. It's actually not as terrible as that sounds. There is actually a standard called WebAuthn, which will connect directly to a token that you have saved. But, even if you're using something like this with two-factor, a lot of the time, once you've got the session token can be stolen, and there's not really a lot of checks on the session token, such as like IP or region that you're coming from. So the new hotness is for criminals to get you to two-factor and log in. Then they just steal your session cookie. So...
It's just a constant, every time you think you get something right.
This is absolutely better than a password, but I don't know why. I don't know if it was paid media or if people are, ready to be done with passwords. But this is a story that was literally everywhere. And so I was like, okay, we'll cover it.
It probably was a paid ad.
Probably.
That's how I feel about anything anymore. I'm like, is this actually real, or was someone just paid for this?
Google Play to ban Android VPN apps from interfering with. I don't even know why I did that.
You read it? That's fine. Google Play to ban Android VPN apps from interfering with ads. Speaking of advertisements.
So DuckDuckGo does this, and I was like, oh, this is going to affect DuckDuckGo. But the person who wrote this article said DuckDuckGo is probably going to be affected by this. So they reached out to DuckDuckGo, and DuckDuckGo said their VPN product, they don't expect it to be affected. So this might be just VPN products that scrape your data and prevent Google from scraping your data. So imagine a VPN product that will take links to products and replace the links to products with affiliate links to products that are their affiliate code. There's a lot of reasons you can't do that, like with SSL and some other stuff, but that is the kind of thing that Google is trying to protect against, according to this. And DuckDuckGo kind of agrees with them, but the original author for the register said that legit apps could also be affected by this if they interfere with advertising. That's one of the things that's going on here. Google seems to be trying to craft this so that you can't have an ad blocker on Android, and you can't mess with applications telemetry from users, and you can't mess with apps that depend on ads for revenue. But the reality is maybe something a little different. I don't know. That was my takeaway anyway.
Yeah. I just hate ads.
It's a lot to unpack that, though, to explain. It's like, well, we don't want to block VPNs. And VPNs, if a user wants to, a VPN that blocks ads, that probably should be okay because ads are often abused. But where do you draw the line?
But we still really, really need advertiser money, so...
Yeah. And so Google, I think, is always going to draw that line on the other side of, it's like, well, we'll still get ads, or we'll still get the telemetry, or we'll still get whatever. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe DuckDuckGo is right, but we'll see. We'll see. Oh, this one is kind of sad because I don't really have anything against this particular crypto organization, but then at the same time, it's like, well, this always happens.
It does. Solana-based DeFi protocol Optify loses $661,000 in programming blunder.
They accidentally closed the contract. They created a situation where something wasn't right, and they forced it through, and that closed the contract, which locked away $661,000 in USDC. Oops. So they're going to try to make it a little harder to do that again. And I think 95% of the total value locked is from one of its team members, meaning that customer assets may equate to only $33,000. So,
oof.
It's, we did it to ourselves. They shot themselves in the foot mostly. One person may have lost $33,000, but mostly it was the internal team. So, could be worse.
Still not great.
Still not great. This is also a fun story. So this switching gears a little bit. I like this story for a lot of reasons.
Google's open source bug bounty aims to clamp down on supply chain attacks.
So this is Google saying we depend a lot on open source, and some of these projects are, a library or something that doesn't really, it's very mature, and so it doesn't get a lot of movement every year, but that doesn't mean it can't have problems. If we all depend on something, that
we should be auditing it.
Yeah, we should be auditing it, and maybe, because we use the crap out of open source, if we use it, we're willing to
pay a bug bounty.
Even
though it's not technically ours.
Yeah. So this is nice. I'm hard pressed to find a downside here. Engagement challenge.
It's surprising. I'm sure if Ryan was here, he'd find a way to spin it so it's dark. But
it'll pay anywhere from $101 to $31,000 for information about bugs in projects like Angular, Golang, and Fuchsia, or for vulnerabilities in third-party apps that are included with those projects' code bases. So, Fuchsia is Google's replacement for Android, eventual replacement for Android. And, Go is Google's language. But Angular doesn't really have much to do with Google at all. They just use the crap out of it. So it's nice that they're including those kinds of things. And they talk about solar winds and some of the other stuff that can be negatively impacted by that. So this seems good, but if there's a downside I'm missing here, engagement challenge, let me know.
Yeah.
And this one's just straight up fraud.
Wally World lists a 30 terabyte portable SSD for $39. It is naturally a scam.
It will fool you into thinking it's 30 terabytes. It's so slow that by the time you encounter a problem, I think the article that I saw, that when they tested it, it was 64 gigabytes. But even with 64 gigabytes, testing it would have taken like 2 days before you hit the end of it. So with the 30 terabyte drive, no matter where you choose to write the information, up to the first 32 or 64 gigabytes or whatever, it'll be able to retain the information. But when you hit that limit, then it wraps around to the beginning. And so the things that you wrote to it 30 terabytes ago won't be there anymore. But or 30 terabytes, 30 gigabytes. So it's like it's 1,000 to 1 compression, except that when it's compressed, it's gone forever.
Who had discovered that?
I think it was just obvious. I saw a security researcher say this is obviously a scam and ordered it, and then they were able to show how
Exactly
it was
what
a scam.
happened. Yeah.
So, and it totally was. It was 100% a scam. It works. It's just that
to a point.
Even though it's really slow. Oh yeah, Ray redacted. Yeah, there's a tweet here. It's like it'll work to a point, and then once you cross that point, it's like, this is just explaining, how the scam works. But yeah, basically the whole thing was a scam.
Rip.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, hot glue.
Yeah, that's a rough image. Can you flip to that?
It's like, oh, look at that. It's just 2 micro SD
It
cards.
just looks like a toaster strudel. They just put some frosting in there.
Yeah, when it's full, then you're basically done. I don't know if it was this one or the one that I saw was only even USB 2.0. So that was part of the scam, was like just make it so slow that by the time somebody so much time would have passed, no one is going to bother checking it to that extent. Speaking of things that no one's going to bother with,
Web3 domain name service could lose its web address because programmer who can renew sits in jail.
ETH.link expired on July 26th and will be up for grabs on September 5th.
Ooh, so by the time you guys see this, yeah.
What happened? Engagement challenge.
We're recording this in the past.
Oh, my goodness. This one was also fun.
Oh, yeah. 8-year study shows the dark side of WordPress plugins.
So it turns out when you have people that don't have any idea what they're doing building WordPress websites, and they're just like, look at this thing that I found it online. There's a backdoor.
Almost always. Or they're just not maintained, or they go to a pay model, and then your client's angry because they're like, no, I have to pay for this. And it's like, well, that's WordPress.
Definitely have encountered the situation where there's a plugin, and it's like, okay, we paid for the plugin. There was nothing about a subscription or anything like that. It's like a one-time thing. And then a year later, the plugin has mysteriously updated itself, and now it's subscription only, and it also doesn't work.
And that's why we don't do WordPress sites anymore. We don't even maintain them for people anymore.
Yeah, it's just, and people have no idea. And then it's when you bring them the bad news, it's like, oh, it's your fault. And it's like, no.
No, you had this developed by someone else, and we agreed to maintain it for you, and now we shouldn't have.
Yeah, and it's such a dumpster fire. It really is.
Yeah, it's never worth the hassle.
And a lot, sometimes too that happens with a popular plugin. Like a popular plugin will be purchased by somebody else, and then somebody else does something to it. It's like, okay, fine.
The new owner of the plugin.
You need a way to monetize this, but it's usually not so bad for WordPress.org proper things. But a lot of I bought this theme on this theme pay for website. Everything will be fine for a year or two, and then things get sketchy, and then things get really sketchy. So. Somebody studied that and found, oh yeah, that's basically how it is.
Yep. They just confirmed it with more sciencey language than what we're using.
According to the paper, over 440,000 plugins in their data set were shown to have been infected after they were deployed. The team found that the malware would attack other plugins on the site to spread the infection. Yup.
We hates it, Precious. We hates it. Had many afternoons stolen because of WordPress problems.
There was also this. If you use LastPass, you may have seen that LastPass has had a security breach. You as a user of LastPass, it's not bad, at least not yet.
That we know of. LastPass hackers stole source code.
So they were able to get access to some internal LastPass systems, not the place where people store their passwords, but the software on which it is built. So now hackers may be able to find vulnerabilities in it and use that to create some issues. But we don't know yet.
We probably will be doing a follow-up story this week.
Yeah, or the week after, or
whenever it comes out.
The one after that. So, fun times. Also, remember, it wasn't last week, it was the week before, we were covering that the web extension that TikTok uses. When you click a link in TikTok and it opens up in a web browser, it logs everything, including your password and stuff that you do. And they were like, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's
something kind of wrong with it.
Yeah, it turns out.
Microsoft finds TikTok vulnerability that allowed one-click account compromises.
So if you can trick somebody into clicking something, you can weaponize the fact that happens and use it to steal their account.
Ooh.
Oh, boy. The flaw resided in the app's deep link verification process.
Another reason to not use TikTok. Though we are on TikTok, if you're into that. For all 5% of our Gen Z viewers, we have a TikTok now. Our social media person manages it.
Yeah, it's not even on any of our phones. It's on
yeah, we've got a phone just for social stuff. That's not tied to anybody in the office because we're that paranoid.
Because why would we? This has been fixed, so that's totally okay. And the thing that we always talk about, normies are finally starting to notice.
Tech tool offers police mass surveillance on a budget. So that's what you want to hear about your surveillance technology. It was budget.
This is apnews.com. And so this is, it's like, oh, look at this. Fog Data Science LLC. And it's like, oh, we can just gather all this data from commercial databases. And because it's from a commercial database, the constitutional protections don't apply. This is not just happening in America. This is happening everywhere. Even Europe, even with all of the European data protection on citizens and this kind of thing.
Well, so we did that story about, China lost a bunch of people's information, but it wasn't technically the Chinese government. It was their subcontractor.
Yeah.
So that way they can, probably just fire the subcontractor and then do the same thing again.
This is a pretty good article. It's kind of long, but it's a pretty good article that you can share with anybody who says, anybody who's not worried about these kinds of things or not on their radar. A lot of the time we get comments that are, how can I share this with my parents, or how can I explain this to somebody in a way that'll help them understand? This is one of those articles. You can send them, and it's pretty much all wrapped up there, but it talks about how because all of our devices and all of our software and all of this stuff are collecting data for years and years and years and years
constantly
at a time, you can get into explain why you were here at this place 2 years ago. I was like, I don't know. I was like, well, there was a robbery and it's a cold case and your phone was one of 4 that were there, so you have to know something. And
it's like, well, dude, I was just getting a coffee. I don't know what was going on that day.
Or people show up at your house and take all your computers and your phones and everything, and they don't even tell you why. And then later it's like, oh, well, you took a picture of your son to send to your doctor. And it's like,
oh yeah, that was a terrible story last week.
Why?
Show that, yeah. If your parents are asking why that's a bad thing, send them that doctor story about the parent who took a picture of his kid on the doctor's request and got flagged.
Yeah, Google definitely needs to look into all that. Yeah.
You're not going to do it.
Not so much. Oh, and then there's this.
Most top mobile carriers retain geolocation data for 2 years on average, FCC findings show.
Yeah, so everywhere you go, you're the person you buy your cell phone from is storing that information on top of Google and third-party advertisers and apps that you use and everybody else. And so you read this in the context of all the other stuff that we show you. It's not a great situation. It's like you have
no privacy.
Yeah, and it can only hurt you. There's never a case where any of this would ever help you. It only serves to hurt you in any kind of a situation that you might find yourself in where this data is relevant.
Only maybe if you're lost hiking, they can use your cell phone data to figure out where you are, but
yeah,
that's pretty much the only one.
They know who you are, they know who you call, they know where you are at all times. It's like, oh, the FCC is taking steps to ensure this data is protected. I don't agree with that. The fact that this exists means that it's unprotectable. The only winning move is not to play.
But I like having the internet on my phone.
You can have internet on your phone without having to give all that up. It's just that we're really stupid.
Not in the society we currently live in. It's not possible, unfortunately.
All right, what do we got for Friday? We got a lot of nonsense.
It's a robot space nonsense. We will see you guys then. Bye. Hello, welcome back to the L1 show. It is September 9th, and we are doing space, robot, and nonsense stories.
There's so many robots and so many space.
Mostly space stories this week.
I really like our first story a lot.
NASA's Perseverance Mars rover has made oxygen 7 times in exploration milestone.
Yay! We can have breathable atmosphere.
I feel like NASA just has been killing it this year. They've had good story after good story for the most part.
I didn't even know this was happening.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. Yeah, their press team, they release everything all at once too. Like back in, I think it was like December or January, we had a string of like really hyped NASA stories, and then they just don't release anything for like 6 months.
And then this thing releases a bunch of oxygen.
Yeah.
Woo!
It's like cool. They probably do, and I just don't know where it is, but like they should have a whole page. It's like, here's things we're currently doing, and then you can click on it. And
Actually using
more.
resources on the surface of another planetary body, transforming them chemically into something that would be useful for a human mission.
It's struggling to read today. We're a little out of it.
It's Friday. We're tired. It's been a long week.
We're getting ready to go into a holiday weekend here in the U.S. So,
Woo!
well, but not now. By the time you guys see this, it'll be over. But
So much fun. So yeah, oxygen on the red planet. How cool is that?
Elon Musk would like to know your location.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be able to do whatever studying he wants because he'll probably be the one to fly it there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bet your perspective on this story is really interesting.
An AI generated artwork won first place at a state fair fine arts competition, and artists are pissed. The category that it won in was for digital art. So it's technically digital art, but it's not got a human author. They should have a AI generated category,
See,
I would think.
It's one thing to feed a bunch of prompts into DALL-E or Midjourney or something like that, but it's entirely another if you did the training and you put the data set together and you did all of the other stuff, then okay. But with this AI, it's like this is
You literally just put in some keywords. It'd be
Yeah.
like it's as simple as doing like a Google search. Like I don't.
It's the AI plus all of the people that help put the model and the training together are the artists.
Yeah, I mean, it's how many people did it, quote unquote, steal from to get its source imagery?
Yeah, what's the raw material like too? Because like you're gonna build a house, but you had to buy the lumber from Lowe's. But if you are the architect, then you could also get into trouble because you're using an architect's plans without their permission necessarily to build the house.
Right.
It seems like there's some component of that going on here.
I feel like art is just becoming, like visual art anyway, is just becoming a very much outsourced sort of thing anymore.
It's also hard to figure out where they draw the line because think about Photoshop. It's like, okay, I'm going to do my digital art with Photoshop. Okay, well you probably don't need to put Adobe in the credits. But then what about Adobe's content-aware adaptive fill? It's like you start cutting things out of photos and then you use its AI tool to fill in the back of the photo.
Yeah.
And then it's like...
Where's the line? Yeah, it seems like they should have but for this in particular, because it was just prompts, there should have an AI generated category. This technology is so new, I understand why they didn't, but it seems like going forward, art shows are going to have to do that.
Yeah. At the same time, I was also sitting here thinking, it's like in the last show we talked about, the crapping. Oh, sorry. Ooh. We talked about the crappiness of like the Ad Age magazine and the whole industry. Meanwhile, there are people in ad agencies saying, it's like, yeah, we need to deploy that Midjourney cluster right now and have our own whole fleet of artists. And then it doesn't matter. It's like, we don't need anybody to do it. We just need to use the AI to come up with creative things. And yeah.
And it's close enough, right? They don't care.
We were already creatively bankrupt anyway.
Well, and we talked about, too, this was like a week or two ago, the virtual influencers. That's how they'll do it. Everything will just be completely virtualized because that way it's unproblematic. Except when it's not, like the other story we did about the robot who was rapping and saying words it shouldn't have.
I'm imagining the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they accidentally created Moriarty because they said, computer create a character that's capable of defeating Data, and it created a character that was capable of defeating Data, not Sherlock Holmes. Whoops. So it's like that with AI. It's like we need to come up with, hello, computer, we need to come up with an influencer that will be charming and captivating everybody's attention.
Socially conscious, yeah.
But they're really, really interested in Toblerone. And they're going to push the Toblerone marketing.
Brand,
the Mars company agenda. Toblerone's not Mars. But, there you go. I don't know. Speaking of solving those kind of problems.
Engineers solve data glitch on NASA. Oh my gosh. NASA's Voyager 1.
So this was we reported on this like a year or two ago. It's like it's returning mystery errors.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out that the malfunctioning computer may have taken over for the good computer, but we don't know why the malfunctioning computer took
Overrode,
over for the good computer. So we know why it's happening. We're just not really sure how to fix it now. Then this article explains it. It does a better job explaining why.
Just send up a crew, right? Like you just go up there. It's easy. What's the problem?
This is the farthest man-made thing in space.
Just send up some people there. It's fine.
It will take us decades to catch up to it.
Those people didn't have lives or things that they cared about. Just send them up there to fix it.
Here's your new compute module. It'll be back soon enough as Voyager. I guess that was Voyager 6, which is fictitious, but I don't know. Also in our darkest timeline.
This is dark. Yeah, I didn't like this. French government uses AI to spot undeclared swimming pools and tax them.
Yeah, so nothing stops you in
here.
France from building a swimming pool in your backyard, and you don't have to report it, but you're supposed to. But France doesn't want to pay people to go check people's swimming pools, so they do it from space.
That is so dark.
Or, otherwise aerial photos. Yeah, they do that here too with decks.
Yeah.
So here in America, it's like you have an unsanctioned deck. It's like it's just a deck. Do I get a tax credit when the deck gets all weird and rotty and has to be taken down? No.
No.
Why would you do that? So, I don't know. This is also a pretty nice feel-good story.
This was included. I knew Ryan probably put this in here just for you. Star Trek Legends Ashes will head to deep space on a Vulcan rocket.
Uhura, not just Uhura, actually, Nichelle Nichols and who played Lieutenant Uhura, and I think there was one or two others. The Ashes.
Oh, really? I missed that.
Nichelle. Maybe it was. Maybe they're already there because I think Scotty went to space, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle on that.
What a cool way to be honored, though.
Yeah, it is a really, really awesome way. There are more than a few Star Trek actors who their ashes have ended up in space, and that's cool.
That is really cool. I wonder. I hope their family got to keep some.
Yeah.
To spread here on Earth.
Yeah, no, they won't.
They won't send all. Yeah.
No, that's too much weight. Are you crazy?
It's got to be ultralight.
Yeah. This was one that we were discussing a few days ago because China opened up the dams, and it turns out it was part of a larger strategy.
China aims to make rain during dry period. This is cloud seeding. There's been quite a few stories about this. They are in a desperate drought right now. It is not good news, and they are trying to rectify that.
Yeah, they're trying to redistribute the water, so they open up the dams. How about that? Interesting stuff.
Oh, this story wouldn't load for me. Oh, there it goes. Aardman's Shaun the Sheep will soon make a real-life trip to the moon.
I don't know who Shaun the Sheep is.
I also didn't know who this was. We should have sorted this with the Star Trek story.
I thought this was like Sealy or Serta or something.
Oh, is it? Is this a brand deal? Oh.
What kind of a dark future is that where, Sealy can phone up NASA and be like, we're going to do a space mission together. And they're like, all right, what do you want to fund? And
That's what Starlink's going to be, right? It's going to be showing ads in the sky. You won't be able to see the stars anymore. That's my conspiracy theory. Level 1 predicts.
Going to space is not an easy trip, in fact. That's what it says. European Space Agency and...
Is this a kid's show? Like, I missed this one, so I don't know.
Probably. Maybe it's meant to be inspirational.
Lovable character. Aardman. It must be a kid's show. I've never heard of that. If you know who that is, let us know.
I don't know. Yeah, Engagement Challenge. Is this a kid's show that we messed up on because our...
We don't spend a ton of time with children.
We've definitely got a local mattress company that has a not super different...
Not dissimilar. Yeah.
mascot. It's like, oh, you're counting the sheep. It's even stop motion animated.
Yeah, same. All right, this one is kind of a doom scroll. I think we're kind of in an active solar period, but a huge sunspot pointed straight at Earth has developed a delta magnetic field.
If you've been following Level 1 for a long time, you know that we love to talk about the Carrington event.
Which, if you haven't watched anything about that, you should check that out.
You should go read the
terrifying.
Wikipedia article on the Carrington event.
It happened in the 1800s before we had a lot of widespread electric anything. Yeah, and it caused major problems with what was there. And if something that big happened again, it would cause way worse problems.
Industry would just grind to a halt because we don't even have the parts to repair our grid.
Yeah, a lot of it's hardened, but not a lot of it's not as well.
Yeah, we wouldn't. There are people that maintain the grid that do keep an eye out for space weather, And they do preemptively shut down parts of the grid and move things around, unbeknownst to us, to avoid problems with electromagnetic storms. There's actually a lot that goes on there. And something like this would just completely overwhelm our ability to deal with it.
Yeah, so the delta magnetic field, I think, because it's pointed right at us, if it had a large enough flare, it could cause some pretty major issues. I think it's
As
at
it
like,
did in the 1800s.
yeah, but I think it's at like a 5% chance. So it's pretty low. Don't freak out too much, but maybe just be aware.
5% is kind of high, actually.
Yeah, I saw some comments, people who were like, I played D&D and 5% doesn't seem like it's that high, but eventually.
Also, this was
This
sad.
depressing. Yeah. Man of the Hole, last of his tribe, dies in Brazil. This is from an Amazon tribe.
The last person in the Amazon tribe. He covered himself up with feathers, they think, because he knew he was dying. But
He dug his own hole, his own grave.
The rest of the tribe was killed because of resource constraints and other stuff in the 1960s.
Extraction, yeah.
Yeah, so...
He was the last one who spoke his language, didn't ever assimilate into other local communities, and just passed away. Knowledge gone.
Yeah, just definitely not a good situation.
God, it's sad.
Yeah, but the march of technology. They did once they realized that, like once Brazil, I think, which is where this was, realized it was a problem. They actually set up a preserve for him, an exclusion zone. But by then, all of his tribe had been killed except for him.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like, oops, sorry. And what can you do at that point?
Anyway, this is interesting.
The Doctors Who are coming to Magic, The Gathering, all of them. It's the Doctor Who, that is.
Yeah, I was like, the Doctors Who mean like the BBC Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Because they always put the little in joke in there. It's like the Doctor Who.
Who? I think I think Ryan included this because they're also bringing Gandalf, Pippin, Merry, Aragorn, blah blah blah. Yay! The continued commercialization of all the things we love continues.
The Universes Beyond product line. Free advertising on the Level 1 show. Look at that. Everybody liked that Doctor. And that one. Where's Christopher Eccleston? Damn it! I thought he was a reasonably good Doctor. Oh well.
That's Matt Smith, right? The one on the bottom.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Matt Smith surrounded by orcs?
I don't know. I don't watch Doctor Who. I feel like it's one of those things that it's just so far, like there's so much to catch up on.
I think that probably the first this artwork kind of reminds me of Joseph Griffith, some of his stuff, because it's just a mismatch of so many things.
It's just, ugh. Yay!
What's going on here?
That's Frodo claiming the ring.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was some sort of artifact card and something.
Oh, I'm sure it's got something with the brand, but yeah, great.
Yeah. Good Lord, $128?
In these inflationary times,
You can get a reasonable graphics card for that.
you can get so many banana puddings from Buc-ee's.
Go a long way toward filling up that pool with banana pudding.
Pudding, yeah, the gold-plated one
This is also
that you can't have in France.
Switching gears a little bit. This was kind of surprising.
Google finds inoculating people against misinformation helps blunt its power.
How do you inoculate people against
You
misinformation?
just don't show it to them.
No, you supply them with information that is so insane that they can't help but understand that it's misinformation. And sometimes people will still say, "Oh, really? That's surprising." Like
They just accept it with uncritically, yeah.
buffalo wings come from buffalo. They're tiny vestigial wings from when buffaloes flew, and you lance them off, and then ta-da, buffalo wing.
You heard it here first.
Somebody will believe that. But by hearing that, most people will, go into a mode where they're very skeptical. And so the next thing they read will be taken with a grain of salt. Whereas, if they show up to, I don't know, the Seattle Times and read this, it's like, oh, yeah, that sounds believable. Not so good.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting story about that.
Social psychology of manipulating search results, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're switching into the nonsense section.
Yeah, definitely. We've kind of been in the nonsense for a little bit. A Southwest pilot threatened to turn the plane around and go home if passengers didn't stop airdropping nudes to each other. What is the world coming to? You were on a plane recently.
Yeah.
What would you have done? I guess you don't have an Apple phone, so you can't airdrop, but
Yeah, I mean, I would have just turned my phone off. It's like, oh,
turn off airdrops, yeah.
yeah. I was trying to catch up on Star Trek. I was watching Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds.
Do you like them?
Strange New Worlds is surprisingly not awful. It's not.
That's a high praise.
It's not unreasonable. Lower Decks would not make any sense to anybody that wasn't completely fully read in on everything in the Star Trek franchise. It would not.
It's not
even,
newbie friendly.
It would not be a reasonable show if you didn't know literally all of the buzzwords and jargon for all of the stuff, because it is just, it's not.
Is that a good or bad thing? Like,
It's not good. It doesn't help the storytelling of the stories, or
is it? It's not. This is dense with like backstory. It's more like they turn and wink at the audience and they're like, "Hey, do you like Star Trek?" Like,
yeah, literally everything is a reference to something that happened in some random episode of Star Trek. Even going back, I mean, even like Star Trek the animated series, in some of the books, and
I love that you catch on to all of them though, because you've read everything and seen everything.
It's a fun universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but if I were, on the plane, there was an episode like this where somebody had their laptop and they were trying desperately to get their AirPods to pair with their device, and for whatever reason, I was using an iPad with all of this media on it, and the iPad was like, "Are these yours?
Is this yours? Is this yours? Is this yours?" And you couldn't stop it.
Yeah, it would not go away. I don't know what they were doing on their side, but they were just losing their mind trying to get it. And I was like, "No, stop that! No." And there's no headphone jack on the iPad, so I couldn't just plug in a wire. But I would have turned off Bluetooth on my iPad and just plugged in a headphone, because they sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes just constantly hitting the pair button.
Yeah.
And there was no way to just permanently dismiss it. It was just, "Are these yours?" No. It was like, "Stop this. It's just stop." And it was on top of the thing. It was really super annoying. So yeah, if I was a pilot and I didn't want to turn off my phone, I would be super annoyed by this.
Well, also you probably, it's non-consensual. It's flashing. So I could see being pretty pissed as well.
But if it had gone on much longer, I probably would have just, turned my iPad off. It's like, "No, screw this. I'll just sit here and quietly contemplate its existence." I don't think I would bother to like turn the airplane around or whatever.
It'd just be like a high-pitched scream in the back of your head. For however many hours you're on the plane.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, I can hear the landing gear shifting around in there. It must mean we're about to land." Yeah. Speaking of which,
Winnipeg mayor candidate gets bike stolen 85 minutes after promising to reduce bike theft.
that's how you know you've got a bike theft problem.
Wow.
Probably should have put an air tag on that, huh? And it's not even a really super awesome bike.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty standard, just like a little road bike with the basket on the front.
Oh.
Sucks to suck, my dude.
Wow. That's just...
This story is horrific.
Yeah, we can't... I don't even think we can say the first part of this, because the algorithm is so keyed up to look for that. And it's like, we'll just say things made from stuff.
Wait, why is Pearl?
Oh, it's the phrase.
Oh. Necklaces made from stuff are TikTok's hottest new jewelry trend. I refuse to believe that. I don't think that. I think that's like a handful of people who are doing that. Kind of like KFC did that stupid promo where it was like gold-plated chicken bones. It's just some sort of advertising.
I remember Cooler Master. I'm still waiting on my Cooler Master fried chicken warmer. It was like, the processor runs hot. But then
we did that. Oh, we did that story years ago. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and the processors have only gotten hotter.
I don't know what they'd be advertising with this, but I'm confident that no one would wear that seriously.
So bad. So terrible.
Yeah.
This is also a glimpse of our dark future.
A 93-year-old assisted living resident died after she was served dishwashing liquid instead of juice.
Yeah.
I assume that this woman probably not mentally all there.
San Mateo.
And was served this and drank it.
3 of our residents were recently transported to the hospital after being mistakenly served dishwashing liquid as drinking juice.
3 people? I thought it was just the one.
That's somebody that's really checked out of their job. It's like if you don't notice.
Yeah, well, because it would be viscous, like
and you like smell of it, and it's like this doesn't smell like apple juice. This smells like dishwashing liquid.
Yeah.
So again, the person who's doing this is really, really checked out, super checked out. So
that's terrible.
Yeah, but the person who also is drinking dishwashing fluid, probably not really super high quality of life either.
No. Well, it's like I said, they're probably not mentally completely there anymore.
This one was also kind of funny. This is almost borderline, too hot for the thing. But,
too hot for YouTube. Yeah.
But also, so there was a law passed in Texas recently where if people donate certain things that I think we would probably say are religious artifacts, that's okay to have those in school. It's just the school can't, go out on its own and get religious artifacts and display them. But if somebody gives them to the school, that's fine. If parents give the school, whatever, that's totally okay. So some parents did.
North Texas School District rejects "In God We Trust" signs in Arabic and a rainbow.
Because they said we have enough. The problem is that the law is like, no, if somebody donates this, you have to accept that.
You have to display it, yeah.
That's what the law literally
says.
says.
That's so tame. "In God We Trust" in Arabic and a rainbow. What?
Yeah, this was literally done.
There's nothing even a little offensive about that.
Things like that are signs that civil society maybe is about to break down. How can we use our technology to survive in these times where, as our fellow citizens, we don't see eye to eye to the point that this kind of thing is used as a distraction to make us not pay attention to other more important things. Fun stuff. Oh, there's also this.
Yeah. I have no idea how to pronounce this town name. Milpitas School District asks parents to help house teachers. What if you just paid them? Are you done with that?
Yeah, what sort of a dark future is it where it's like, oh, I've got a room I can rent you, and it's like, oh, I just really want to be a teacher. I get that teaching is rewarding,
but they need to be compensated. That's
you should be able to earn a living.
The pay is tragically low for most teachers.
Yeah, and finally, we got
a couple more. This one.
But this one should be like an actual good story.
Jeff Bezos thanks Rings of Power showrunners for ignoring his notes at Lord of the Rings UK premiere. Says his son told him, "Please don't F this up." I haven't watched it. I don't know that I'm going to watch it. But the consensus online so far, ignoring people who are like, it's a 10 out of 10, and people who are like, it's a 1 out of 10. But the general consensus from people who just wanted to watch the show, it seems to be, this is very meh. Like a lot of people are saying it's really boring, which is really tragic because it didn't have to be this way. But maybe it's not so much an F up so much as a bleh up.
They were so scared to do anything innovative or breaking the mold or whatever.
Yeah.
That it just became the most milquetoast thing ever.
Yeah, I heard some people saying it felt like a show designed by committee. They're like, it's visually beautiful, but extremely boring.
$60 million an episode.
That's what you get for it. It's, yeah, I don't know, but from the promo material that I've seen, the showrunners don't seem to have any sort of strong creative vision at all. Just
10% of that we could have transformed the open source world into. But instead we have this.
Or we could have had an actually good show. Or maybe many good shows that aren't based on an existing IP.
Yeah, what imagine a show about just a typical Shire family experiencing.
If they had the rights to the appendices, they could have done the Kinstrife in Gondor. They could have done Aragorn's travels before he became king. Like, they had some stuff that they actually had the rights to, and they chose to make a story about the Second Age, which they don't have the rights to. And it shows.
I guess they don't have the rights to Tom Bombadil either.
They would actually, because they got the TV rights for all Lord of the Rings and the appendices. So they could have done a really super faithful episodic version of Lord of the Rings, because the books really lend themselves to that episodic, chapter by chapter nature, but they didn't do it. So
why is this?
You know how you were like, I'm watching Lower Decks, and I'm just like, meh. That seems to be the consensus so far on Lord of the Rings. So
you know what else Britons are meh about? Drinking recycled sewage.
Yeah, understandable. Britons need to be less squeamish about drinking water from sewage, says agency head.
Coming from a country where we drink recycled sewage, you're right to be worried about
Yeah,
that.
well, and all our water is so heavily bleach flavored. When I go backpacking and I filter some water from like streams, and then I come home and I drink tap water again, it's like, oh, this is just bleach. This is 90% bleach, isn't it?
We also struggle a bit with getting the drugs out. And so
Yeah.
there is an ungodly amount of hormones and like hormone signaling stuff in the water that is,
Or just
benign.
antibiotics, yeah.
But we don't really,
Know how that's actually affecting us.
it's probably benign, but at the same time, it's like, well, this and this and this health condition may be caused by hormones being picked up from the water. So
Microplastics,
a lot of
E.
microplastics.
coli.
Yeah. And finally,
Miss England finalist becomes first in pageant history to compete without makeup.
yeah,
Well, she's pretty. What's the...
that was the headline.
Well, I mean, considering how heavy pageant makeup tends to be, that is sort of impressive. Like, it's heavy cake makeup for pageantry. Because you want to stand out. Because on stage makeup, when I used to be on a makeup crew when I was in high school, and our person who was supervising us, the teacher, was like, you don't go for subtlety with stage makeup.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise you'll just be bleached out on stage. So you go real heavy, and I imagine pageants are not immune to that.
Well, that's good, I guess. And somebody, there's a lot of stories from England this time. Engagement challenge.
Do you have strong feelings about this?
Yeah.
That's probably good. Like I said, she's a pretty girl, so nice to actually see her face and not just makeup.
And overall, I'll say, for this week, we are heading into the fall. So there's going to be a lot of tech stories. There's going to be a lot of releases. AMD was first out the gate this week. We covered their press event. They didn't really reveal a lot, but that's only just the tip of the iceberg. They're the first mover, the first person to do the press release, but there's so much more coming, not just from AMD. And so it's going to be bananas this fall.
Things to look forward to.
Things to look forward to as perhaps the world collapses around us.
Oh, also new Bjork album out this month.
Yeah, so we'll have that. We'll all be together here. That's your one. We're your rock in the sea of chaos.
Yeah. Look forward to new tech releases and a new Bjork album.
Yeah.
That's maybe 2 different Venn diagrams, but...
And probably also the return of Ryan.
Yes, he should be back by next Friday. So
All right.
we should all be here next week, barring any more health crises.
Woo! We'll catch you then.
All right.